Welcome back to the onX Offroad Build Challenge Road Trip. 3 teams with a $15,000 budget competing for a chance to represent onX Offroad on this year's Ultimate Adventure. Last time, our teams tackled Moab Rim to test out their off-road ability of their fresh builds.
Pulled sway bars, pulled that lower control arm bolt to make the front be able to twist a little easier, and then beefed up the rear lowers.
Our goal was to do an everyman's build on a budget and do it on leaf springs. Leaf springs are a tried and true, proven suspension.
So when we were coming up Devil's Crack, I got a little frisky with it, and you know, turns out when you forget to weld stuff together, they come apart. So we pulled the welder out, put it back together for now, and we'll fix it up later.
Then the teams took on the first of many challenges.
On UA, it's pretty common that you end up damaging a drive shaft at some point, so they wanted to sort of duplicate that in a controlled environment and a spot to where the camera guys could get sweet bangers of us under the truck. So we basically had to get under the truck, pull the drive shaft out, show a representative from Yukon Gear the drive shaft, and he'd be like, yep, thing looks sweet, and then we had to bolt it back in. We had to do that on the front and the rear of the rig.
But to get it back in, I ended up having to cut the threads off of my pinion shaft, and then it was able to slide in.
And time! Each team is competing for your votes, so head on over to onX Maps Build Challenge to vote for your favorite driver and send them on this year's Ultimate Adventure. Just like the Ultimate Adventure, the contestants today are headed out on a road day. We gave them a waypoint to meet us at to tackle their next challenge.
All right, it's day 3 on this trip. Yesterday was doing some challenges, changing some drive shafts, and totally dominating. Good work.
We did all right.
Today is road day, so we are road tripping out of Moab, hitting the road, heading up into the mountains. I believe we're heading towards Colorado.
You know, coming into this challenge, I wasn't sure what I was gonna be able to do. I didn't have any seat time in it other than just driving it on the road. And I feel like it's done really, really well.
The thing is fantastic. It goes down the road straight, it goes fast, it stops well, it doesn't like pull left or right, it doesn't do anything weird, except it has a blown head gasket. So we are totally babying it, trying to keep those temps down.
When I built the RAD Charger, I knew I was going to do a lot of highway driving with it anyway, so it was super important that I set it up to actually do those miles. So if you don't mind a little bit of a lean, it handles really well down the highway.
Oh, I'm gonna lay this thing over right here.
So one thing that you know about BleepinJeep is we don't take anything seriously. So we put on these 90s outfits to go with the 90s S10. If you saw the rear differential, it's got Leonardo on there. And what better to have than 90s outfits to go with the 90s truck?
While Matt and I were driving, the only way we could pass time is by singing songs. We tried to think of 90s songs that we sang.
Right, stop, collaborate and listen. I back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Something like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll go to the extreme. I rock a mic like a can vandal. Light up the stage like a jump like a candle. Dance.
We put in a lot of road miles, from heat to cold, a lot of hill climbs. Getting up into Colorado, it was a breath of fresh air to get into some normal temperatures.
I love it on the highway. It's one of the best vehicles I've built as far as being like on 39s and still being drivable on the highway. The road manners have been surprisingly great.
I wish I would have upgraded the cooling system. The stock radiator on this is a little bit small. So yes, the AC works, but we have to turn it off all the time because we're constantly on the verge of overheating.
AC. Oh yeah, that's icy.
So in the beginning, we started with a stock 1987 RAD Charger, and we've turned it into a rock crawling machine. Originally, this vehicle was on leaf springs front and rear. What we did is we pulled that out and we put a custom 4-link with a track bar in the front on coilovers, and in the rear we went with the Chevy 64-inch leaf springs. We wanted to keep the Mopar in it, and so we're running the stock Mopar 360 with a mild cam and a dual plane intake, operated by a Phytec fuel injection throttle body. For the axles, we got the axles out of a 2008 Ford Super Duty, front and rear. So the axles are loaded front and rear with the Yukon zip lockers, which are an air locker. We're running 538 gears, and honestly, it's a bulletproof system. I underestimated how long everything took. So gears and lockers took a little longer than expected.
So coming in the second half of this build, a lot of the mechanic work, really I was just an extra hand. I didn't have a ton of help in that. The majority of what I did was the looks of the vehicle. A lot of it was body work, helping with that. I did a lot of the interior.
So for the paint, we were going a little bit bold, something a little different. You don't see that color on a vehicle very often, or those colors. For the body work, in the rear, I ended up stretching the wheel wells 6 inches, and in the front, we just chopped what needed to go.
So one of my favorite things about this build, and it's something you really can't see unless you're looking for it, is just the little details all across the build. Rudy put a whole bunch of little lightning bolts pretty much everywhere, and all the gussets. You can see it in the RAD Charger logo. There's some lightning bolts in there. So if you just walk around the build, you'll see about 10 of them, I think, just around the build, which is really cool.
So one of my favorite features of the truck is actually the interior. I kept the stock dash, stock carpet, stock seats up front, but the roll cage and the headliner really kind of tie it all together for me. Not only does the headliner look cool, but it's also a huge sound deadener. But yeah, I just like how comfortable the interior of it is.
Make sure you check out the onX Offroad Elite membership so you can unlock some of the best discounts from some of the biggest names in the off-road aftermarket. After a short drive from Moab into colorful Colorado, the teams met up for the JKS Shock Challenge. All right, everybody, welcome to your second challenge as part of the onX Offroad Build Challenge road trip. This challenge is the JKS Fox Challenge, so obviously it's gonna be some type of suspension challenge. And I thought a lot about what kind of challenge we could do for that, and I looked at your rigs and I decided that probably the most fair thing for everybody to do would be to simply change shock absorbers side to side. So the left-hand shock has to go onto the right-hand side, and the right-hand side has to go on the left-hand side. Front or rear, it's completely up to you. And it's super easy, right? So easy that all of you could literally do it with one hand tied behind your back. And that's exactly what's going to happen.
When Ian said we were gonna have one arm behind our back, my honest feelings were like, why are we doing this?
Each partner will have one hand zip tied behind their back, so you'll have access to only one hand to work with, and you will perform this job. How easy is that?
Super easy.
All right, I'll get the zip ties, we'll tie up your hands, and you can get to work. Zip ties, yay!
I felt like we had a really good chance to do well. It was a chance to shine, knowing that the Land Cruiser sits really low and it's hard to get to shocks, and knowing that Rudy brought a race truck, that it would be really tough for them to change their shocks out.
We had a good rig for it because the thing has like studs top and bottom, and it was sort of easy to get the shocks loose.
It's very easy to remove these front shocks with two hands, but with one hand it made it a lot more difficult.
Shocks are really, really stiff, and I had a hard time getting them in with both hands, so I knew I had to tie back my weaker hand and use my right arm to really stuff them in there.
Like, getting these shocks in is difficult enough with two hands. Pulling them out and swapping sides and putting them back in with one hand, I'm like, oh, we'll give it a go.
The whole point is change parts, because in UA you're gonna have to change parts, and then tie your hand behind your back because it's fun, and it's fun for people to watch you squirm on TV. So I think that that's why we did it. So in the moment when I was rolling around in like sharp, weird grass from a state that I don't normally go to, wasn't super fun if I'm being honest, but when it was all said and done, I'm sure it's gonna be fun to go back and look at the footage.
It was another one of those things where the shocks came out super easily. Getting them back in though was a whole nother story.
There wasn't any space to like compress the thing to get it back in, so we were fighting it a little bit.
You have to hold those spacers right on the shocks and perfectly fit the shocks right where they go, get the bolt in them.
And it's really tough. I mean, these are shocks from an F350. They have a lot of pressure to them.
I was thinking about how badly I want to go on Ultimate Adventure, and I muscled through that shock and forced it in there. And plus, Leonardo had my back.
Shocks in, done. Shocks are done.
You are free.
We just couldn't do it, like, with one hand. Like, you gotta compress the shock to get it back up in the mount. And between Janelle and I, we just didn't have it. Like, it was another hot day. We were tired, so I called quits.
Forfeit. It's not gonna go in.
It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, and it should not have been that hard.
Nate had to pull zip tie after the other team forfeited, so we took a solid second on that one, I'm pretty sure.
Coming in first place in the JKS Shock Challenge was Team BleepinJeep, receiving an additional 1,000 votes, followed by Dumptser Fire / Dreamsicle, picking up 300 votes, and finishing last was Team RAD Charger, getting 100 votes. The next leg of our trip was supposed to be heading up Black Bear Pass, but when we woke up that morning and surveyed our route, we read trail reports from our onX Offroad app that told us that Black Bear Pass was closed. So using our onX app, we found Ophir Pass just south of Telluride and headed up over the mountain and into Ouray, Colorado.
I love it out here. My dad used to take me out here as a kid. His favorite lake is just up the hill from us. And this is gonna be one awesome shelf road that we're gonna drive that's gonna put us above tree line.
I aired down to somewhere like around 9 or 10. One of my favorite parts about the Method B grips, and one of the reasons I insisted on using these on this build, is the fact that I've had them on other vehicles where I've literally blown a sidewall. I've had 0 PSI and it still didn't come off the bead. So I know that whatever pressure I choose to do, it's not gonna matter. I'm not gonna have to worry about losing a bead up here.
I haven't really wheeled much here in Colorado. I've heard good things of like Ophir Pass and stuff, so I'm super excited to hit it. It doesn't sound too technical, but that doesn't matter. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's better than sitting inside.
Just like Ultimate Adventure, it's not all just climbing up the biggest rocks you can find. You're gonna have like lots of beautiful stuff in between. You'll have days where it's a little bit of a lighter day like this, or we're just doing dirt roads and stuff, but we're gonna go up to some high elevations. Still a big test for the trucks. And personally, I like it all. I like the big rocks and I like the scenery stuff too.
So we're on Ophir Pass, and if you look at the mountains, they are actually covered in iron ore, and that's what makes them give that purple tint when you see the sun hit it. And then when you see the rust, that's because of the iron actually rusting from the snowfall. Old miners actually put this road in, I'm assuming probably with dynamite, so that they could get from Ophir into Silverton with their gold.
We've changed scenery a lot, and we haven't really gone that far, but it's gorgeous out here. I mean, I'm loving it.
So the number one problem we are gonna face today is going to be the oxygen level. When we're low on oxygen, it is really hard on a vehicle. You lose a lot of power. And so if you've ever watched the Pikes Peak Hill Climb or anything like that, you see that they actually custom make their fuel injection and their rigs to handle that elevation change.
We're doing good right now, but let's hope it stays like that.
We got off the trail and drove through Colorado to our campsite for the night. All right, challengers, welcome to your campsite for the evening. This is our third challenge. Now, this is very common in Ultimate Adventure. Quite often during UA, you will arrive at your campsite well after the sun has gone down, and you will be setting up your campsite in the dark. Wait for it. So for this challenge, one person must be blindfolded, and that is the only person that is allowed to touch any of your camping gear. The other person will not be blindfolded and will be telling the person who is blindfolded what to do. And you will be setting up your tents wherever you want in front of your vehicle. First one finished wins. Who's going to be blindfolded here?
I'll be blindfolded.
Bleepy blindfolded? Nate will be blindfolded. Blindfold on this team. Excellent, Rudy. All right, we're gonna get the blindfolds out. All right, competitors, begin setting up tents now.
Okay, that's your leg. Fold that down. It's pretty common that you roll up to camp after dark on Ultimate Adventure.
We had to set up camp with one person being blindfolded. That was Rudy, and I was telling him what to do.
Got it, you had it. Flip it back. Flip it back. I felt like throwing a little drill sergeant on Matt was totally worth it, and that's why I wanted him to be blindfolded. Listen to my voice, boy. Listen to my voice, boy.
I'm over here, and you're touching the tailgate.
For me, it was real easy. We basically just needed to roll my air mattress, which automatically fills itself out, and then throw my blanket and my pillow down, and I'm ready to sleep.
Okay, here's your pump.
My role anyway is to take orders from Janelle. And so I put the blindfold on and she told me what to do. And there was a lot of tripping going on, if I had to be honest.
There you go. You gotta get your base out on this side.
Move your right arm down 10 inches. There you go. Now take that, fold it all the way up till it's like right there. I am one of the worst spotters known to man, so I figured I could really screw this one up.
I have never done a tent cot. I didn't know what this thing even looked like. With Dave, I had to work my way through these little clips and like legs and all this stuff.
So what we decided to do was go all out and put everything out, including food, drink, chairs.
Come on, soldier, you trained for this. Flip that thing out. All right. You're reaching too far. You need to go farther to your right. Go forward. Right. Come to me. There it is, right there. There it is, right there. There's only cup holders on that side. The seat is on your left. The other seat is on your left.
That one's locked, no. Okay, reach all the way to the bottom. Forward, all right, there's your tires. Okay, you got like 20 more seconds on there. Top is in your left hand, so flip it over. Wow.
Okay.
Very nice.
Oh my goodness, look at this.
A bed with
Sleeping pad, even a blanket and a pillow. That's pretty baller right there. And even a little footrest spot.
Yeah.
I love it. Everyone's campsite is good, but the indoor sleeping arrangements, these two are two really good ideas. I'm a big fan of the indoor sleeping arrangements. I'm a fan of that, not gonna lie. Excellent job, everybody. I want to congratulate you all for setting up your camp in the dark. That's an important thing to know for Ultimate Adventure. Our blindfolded camp setup challenge was a close one to decide, but the fact that Team BleepinJeep not only set up both their tent cots as well as 2 folding chairs and food to eat for the evening meant that they squeaked out the win and got first place. After a long day on the road and a couple of challenges, our vote leaderboard looks like this. BleepinJeep is well in the lead with a total vote count of 6,000 additional votes. Right behind them is Team Dumptser Fire / Dreamstickle with 2,290 votes. And Team RAD Charger is slowly digging themselves out of the hole, now only down 1,967 votes. Remember to vote for your favorite team to earn a spot representing onX Offroad on this year's Ultimate Adventure by going to onX Maps Build Challenge.